The Triple M Grill Team.
Turn Gus, MG and Matty on 6 till 9 weekdays.
Boys, we're talking about this situation in the Nascars where someone's gone absolutely burko, as I understand, and somebody's been run over.
Absolutely right. Tony Stewart who's got form, as you said before the break, of being a little bit left of centre. Well, he's run over Kevin Ward, a young 19-year-old driver, when they had a bit of a kerfuffle over the weekend. And Kevin Ward has passed away, boys. To get all the latest, Nate Ryan, he is a rider for Auto Racing from USA Today, usatoday.com. Nate, what's happening at the moment, mate? Has Tony Stewart been charged with murder or manslaughter? What's happening with the investigation?
The investigation is ongoing at the moment by the Ontario County Sheriff's Department. So far, they've said they've discovered no evidence. They have no evidence in hand to indicate any intent or to bring any sort of charges. But it's important to note that they have stressed that the investigation isn't completed, it's ongoing, and they want to do a forensic recreation of the crash. And from what I've been told, that could take as long as 2 weeks, probably several days.
I've got to say, Nate, when you see the accident and you understand how experienced Tony is as a driver, it's hard to believe that he couldn't miss him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fair point. I've been covering racing for 12 years, and I always caution that there's, drivers' brains are wired differently than the rest of us, and in order to step into a car that has 900 horsepower and figure out how to make that thing go as fast as they do in stock cars or in sprint cars, as you're well familiar in your country, those beasts are even more difficult to control in the harness. So I don't know if any of us can really appreciate what it's like to drive one. I've been told, and again, people from Australia, sprint car fans probably be aware of this, that in order to control them sometimes, in order to steer them correctly, you actually have to accelerate. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are hung up on the fact that it sounded as if Tony Stewart had revved the engine before his car made contact with Kevin Ward. That might have been him trying to get away. It's really difficult to, I think, speculate and try to read into. As much as I understand why people are going to do that, to try to figure out, hey, did he mean to do it or didn't he mean to do it?
One of the things the investigators will have a look at with Tony Stewart when trying to measure an intent is his past, and I believe it's a fairly checkered past, Nate.
Yeah, that's fair. I think this is one instance in which Tony Stewart's brand, so to speak, as they say in American auto racing, that's an important thing to have when you're out there cultivating corporate sponsors to give you money to race. Tony Stewart's brand is based around being a bit of a hothead and a firebrand and a guy who gets into, as you said, kerfluffles with other drivers and it kind of relishes feuding to some extent. I think this investigation is conducted independent of that, but if charges are brought, I don't see how that doesn't become part of the case. You would think they're probably going to show some history, and as you well know, being in Australia, there's been instances when Tony Stewart has thrown helmets or he's slugged promoters, and that kind of history probably will come back to haunt him a little bit if this gets way far down the road.
Nate, what about public perception in the States? Which side are they leaning towards at the moment? And also, I suppose, Kevin Ward Jr.'s family must be distraught.
Yeah, absolutely. They announced funeral arrangements today, and the family had put out a statement on Sunday saying, we appreciate everybody's support at this point. We just want to grieve for a few days. And today they kind of, the family still hasn't talked to the media, but they did come out with a statement today announcing the funeral arrangement saying we want to have the biggest turnout ever. Please come. So it sounds like they're really welcoming the outpouring of support and emotion. As far as like what public opinion is in terms of the incident, it's all over the map. As you guys probably well know, racing is a very nuanced sport, and if you can't appreciate it or understand it, there's going to be parts of it that are really difficult to kind of reconcile when you're looking at an incident like this, especially when it's so unusual. Usually, death in auto racing, unfortunately, is not uncommon. That happens every year. But for a driver to be standing outside his car when he's killed, that, even for a long-time hardcore fan of racing, that's really difficult to grasp. So I think that's kind of led to it being really charged.
Thanks a lot, Nate. Really appreciate it, mate. Auto racing writer for USA Today, and that's usatoday.com. Thanks for being so
buddy.
comprehensive, mate. And, of course, the video is online at triplem.com.au if you want to see it, exactly what we've been talking about this morning.
The Grill Team, Gus, MG and Matty Johns. Triple M Breakfast.